A big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into the Pitch Madison Advertising Report 2025, a crucial resource that outlines the future landscape of advertising in India, but also tells us how the media landscape performed in 2024. As we navigate through the findings of the report, we will explore critical themes such as media-wise growth projections, shifts in consumer behavior, and the overall economic landscape impacting marketing strategies. With advertising expenditure expected to reach a significant milestone of 1.2 lakh crores in 2025, understanding these dynamics is essential for marketers and brand leaders alike. To discuss these insights further and gain deeper perspectives on the advertising ecosystem, I have with me two industry heavyweights, Sam Balsara, Chairman of Madison World, and Vikram Sakhuja, CEO of Madison Media. Together, they will shed light on the implications of this report and what it means for the future of advertising in India. With that, let me welcome my guest in the studio. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Vikram.
Always a pleasure to be here.
As usual, an outstanding presentation by the Pitch Madison Advertising Report 2025. I saw your report and truly outstanding insights. But for my own benefit and for the benefit of my audience, if you could help me actually break down and give me those insights as to why the numbers are as they are, it would be very helpful. So we'll start with, the big news, which is that the Indian ADEX has just grown by 9% at the total ADEX level. And I believe if you break that down, traditional stands at a measly 6%. Overall headline thoughts on why we've performed so dismally, given the fact that we're a developing market, we should have done much better than, let's say, developed markets like the US, UK, and the others in that league.
I would say yes, it is indeed very disappointing for us to be in a situation like this. And this is not the first year, this is the second year in succession that the Indian market is seeing this position. What is even more surprising, that as I was telling you before the show started, that the fastest growing market is, guess what? Is US. US, which is the largest in terms of share, it is about 32% share. It grew the fastest at some 11%. So in the face of that, India does come out a little poorly. We've been tom-tomming about, we are the fastest growing, we are this, we are that. And now to be seen as, we are the third or fourth fastest growing, is indeed very disappointing. I think there are some basic fundamental reasons why we are facing this situation. I think, as I see it, the basic reason is the economy has not performed as well as we all thought it was performing. And it indeed did not. Ultimately, it is the economy which kind of drives everything. If there's no money in people's pockets, and I think we can't forget that whilst India is also growing reasonably fast, we are a poor country.
Of course.
So basically, it's the mass, what they buy and what they don't buy determines the shape and size of the economy. And I think that is what we are seeing now, that clearly the economy slowed down. And whilst there were some people who were willing to, back up, put money behind advertising in anticipation of growth, I think they were, in time, became a little more cautious because they could see that growth is not coming. And also we saw that, as the year moved on, growth more and more slowed down. For example, in the first half, growth was not so bad. It was, I think 10 to 15%. In the second half, it somehow collapsed. Growth came down to 1% and 2%. So I think these are the basic fundamental reasons why it's difficult for advertising to outperform under these circumstances.
Vikram, you can add to that, but more specifically, taking a cue from what he says first half, this Q1, Q2 did very well, and then we saw a very poor Q3, Q4. This is not usually the case, it's actually the reverse. What, in your opinion, happened here? Why did, corporate India see such poor Q3, Q4 earnings?
So I think it's the economy, as Sam said. Let's take three bellwethers. One is the entire FMCG, which makes up a third of the full ADEX and about close to 47% of TV. That, in a sense, is probably a bellwether for the masses. Now, if you look across the board, most of the large majors in FMCG, their top lines have grown in very small single digits. And many of them actually took cuts and spends. So they actually are normally a good engine of the ADEX, and this engine didn't fire. Auto is another very prominent element of this. And it's interesting that if anything in this year, the one which actually drove auto was the two-wheeler and not the four-wheeler. The previous year, we actually saw the top-end cars doing well, but in 24, that seemed to have slowed down. Now, why even the so-called inelastic rich were not buying, I don't know. They were willing to pay 20,000 rupees for a great concert ticket and so on and so forth. And we had a chat in your earlier show on this. But I think there was a certain reprioritizing happening even at the top, which froze that. The other, which is showing how the consuming part of the, let's say, aspiring classes is e-commerce, which is again the top three categories. There again, the growth came down dramatically. So almost, because India cannot be seen through one lens. It's a very heterogeneous country. And across the board, we found slowdowns. And it was more in the second half, and I think it's all because somewhere in the economy, people are talking K-shaped recoveries, but all the rest of it, but even the top part of the K didn't really fire so much last time.
Sure. Moving on to more specific media, traditional media reported only 6% growth. So I want to start with print, which has held share according to your report. And that's remarkable given the fact that everywhere in the world it has seen a steep decline, I think, barring Germany.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you see, print actually holding fort? Your report seems to suggest that you see it holding fort next year too. But after the big the COVID impact that especially print took, such a big hit, they've done a reasonable recovery. They're managing to hold fort. But what are the reasons they're managing to hold fort, and why do you see them continuing to hold fort in 2025?
One thing that goes very strongly in favor of print is many people don't realize the number of supporters of print there are in this country.
But I thought they're dying.
Amongst advertisers, even today.
Amongst advertisers.
Advertisers. Supporters amongst advertisers. For example, according to our estimates, in print, there are something like 140,000 advertisers. On the other hand, in television, the number of advertisers are 9,000. And this number has come down last year from 11,000 to 9,000. So, print has a lot of takers. Also, there is no entry barrier. You can easily take an ad there. For television, you need a big infrastructure, apparatus, all kinds of things. Print is relatively easy. Also, print has some things going for it. I know I'm sitting in a television studio, so, but there is something about, what I read in print, I tend to believe it a little more. There is more.
Even if it's an ad?
There is more. No. The overall milieu of the newspaper is little bit more based on trust and credibility than a television screen, if I may say so. So that overhang continues even till today. So I would say for these two reasons, print is not going away in a hurry. Print has had a terrible run. If you see over 10-15 years, the share has come down from 40s to 20s. That's a dramatic drop. But now at around 20 share level, it's kind of holding on at that level. For these reasons, that is, the number of advertisers who support print are huge. Television has been singularly unsuccessful in attracting newer and newer advertisers to come into television. I think this will happen when more and more regional advertisers get in local advertising in Tamil, Telugu, and all those languages, but huge numbers adopt television as their core strategy. That may or may not happen because before that, the other newer media seems to be making, inroads into this audio-visual segment.
Sure.
So the build I have on print is that the growth you're seeing more is in the regional language papers and less so in English. So I think we also live in our own exhaust. So a lot of the corporate people who think that print is dying are probably the so-called people who are living in these upmarket homes and maybe reading more English than the regionals and all. But I think if you go to the belly of India, it's still, these kind of habits are very, very alive and kicking, so to speak.
But even amongst the younger generation, which doesn't believe in reading the newspaper at all.
It seems so, yes.
Really?
So in fact, it's again, I've always found it very dangerous to extrapolate to the country what you see in our own homes. So, but from whatever data I have seen, it seems that even the younger people haven't given up print.
You're talking more regional than.
Yes, I'm talking in general, regional doing better than English. And added to that is a lens that you see print readership pretty much through the age cohorts. Of course, it is more in the 30, 40 plus, but it's also significant in the youngers. It's not that it's fallen off a cliff.
Take a look at where retail advertises. Where do they advertise? You don't see them on television. They're in print. So many jewelry, auto, your Blinkit and all kinds of things, your Reliance.
In fact, the category that's grown the most in this in 24 was telecom, more handsets. Again, very solid on print.
Handset is on newspaper every day.
Interesting, because I honestly thought that I thought people who are reading the newspaper are all above 40, and below that, there is a whole generation that does not believe in news consumption.
But possibly those people who are above 40 are consumers of such products. Jewelry, iPhones, those slightly higher value products. And therefore, I think they find good value for money coming when they advertise in the Times of India.
When you talk of TV, your optimism is not as much, it seems, via what the report states. Now, TV also has continued to see a little bit of a decline from where it stood. Its share has also come down by 10%, I would say. Overall contribution to the ADEX stands at about like 32%. It's also come down, and you've also stated the number of advertisers on television has also dropped from 11,000 odd to 9,000 odd, right? Is this story going to change next year? Or are we seeing the winter season for TV?
See, when you talk about linear television,
I'm talking about linear television.
It may not change in a hurry, because I think there are too many newer things coming in. The CTV is now a new kid on the block. Digital has always been there. So, but having said that, I do think that, in between performance and branding, branding, whether on linear television or in digital, I think advertisers, according to me, are making a big mistake by moving away from branding into performance. Because branding builds long-term value. Performance is below the line. You're just pushing sales. As soon as you stop pushing it, your sales engine will stop.
Yeah, so this performance marketing phenomenon, which we've seen in the last few years, is it because A, of the whole digital explosion, but B, also because the new marketers who are coming into the fold are not of the era of the old brand building age?
So I think the reason why it took off in such a big way is, number one, is everyone is now becoming more short-term. And they increasingly more and more becoming so. They put a brand out in the market and they expect to see sales the next day. And how else will you get the sale immediately? Performance is obviously one reasonably surefire way of doing it. So, in fact, some time ago, I gave a talk on, are we as marketers losing confidence in branding?
Are we?
I think we are, if you look around. Maybe we are doing it, I don't know, you might call it the right reasons, but I think there is a time and place for everything. Everything can't be done instantly. You may have a marketer today, he says, I'm launching this, I'm willing to spend, 100 crores, but I want instant sales.
Because his tenure is only 2 years.
Because again, his window is only so much.
If I may build on that, look, I think the absolute compellingness of the narrative which has been sort of spun by the big tech has been that our wonderful use of technology on your data allows us to predict outcomes for you chaps. And it's a very compelling narrative, no question about it. It works also.
Does it work?
Yes, of course. I mean, if you're getting into performance-related stuff like with getting visits or getting app downloads or getting sales, I mean, it's behavior. So the good AI is obviously a great piece of technology which we can adopt. But right now, AI has been able to do a good job of mapping behavior. And behavior, almost by definition, is more the bottom funnel kind of things. What Sam is talking about, the entire how brands are built, is in the heart and mind. Now, what could be a metric which AI could model for heart and mind? And there are some of these mind metrics and all these kind of things, but frankly, they don't do a very good job there. And I think that's where we need to, the next breakthrough is going to come when we can actually model the mind and the mind metrics better. So then people will suddenly start seeing, oh, if I do this kind of stuff, not only it's actually helping me get a premium for my brand rather than performance, which is actually a discounting thing for my brand.
Yeah.
But for that, there's a big leap to be made, which right now big tech has not cracked. Whatever they've done so far on anything to do with awareness or consideration, just in the terms of pure blind measures, it's very pedestrian. So in fact, all the tools that have come in, I don't think the jury is out on how well they work for the top funnel.
But what about marketers? Why are they failing to see the big picture? They did for decades. And
So
what happened?
this is where I find that when you're talking to, the entrepreneurial clients, where pretty much the owner is also the sort of CMO, so to speak, he or she will go and they will use their judgment and say, no, let's do this because it's going to grow my brand, build my business. So we've got a client, they just said on KBC, we were getting an integration done. There wasn't any performance or any kind of other stuff there. But the minute they put it in, the kind of feedback they got from the trade, it was just blew their mind. So what was really going to be a 6-week deal turned out to be a full season deal. Now, this requires guts for somebody to take a call. Now, professional managers they are looking at also sort of protecting the backsides. So they're looking at process and they look at little risk averse. And if somebody comes and tells them, I'm going to give you this cost per acquisition or this ROI, it's a good narrative to spin to your CFO internally. So it's a safe, but I'm slightly sorrier way of doing marketing.
But wasn't that the case even earlier? What has changed within corporates?
What has changed is now that the entire compelling narrative of saying that I can get you ROI basis, performance basis, whatever.
That opportunity was not there earlier.
All these words that have come in have all been actually, that narrative has been done by big tech on the back of some great technology. But it's all measuring behavior.
Do you see this changing in let's say that just short term, 25, 26?
At least I would love to I'm trying to pursue a few areas where if we can get mind metrics to be modeled. Look, I think it's great. We must use this technology. It's there with us, AI. We must use it. But can we use it to model mind metrics credibly? So I'm applying my mind on that. Let's see where it goes.
No, but my question is that do you see marketers moving back?
If you give them a solution, yes, they will. Of course they will. No, when you talk to them one-on-one, even they see that the pendulum has swung too much towards performance. They see it. But they say, okay, but then what can I do to prove to my CEO, CFO that what I'm spending behind branding is actually working? So even if there's going to be a long-term impact, I need to be able to tell them that long-term impact is going to be this. This is how I need to do it. People have now tasted the blood of actually looking at outcomes. And I think that's a healthy sign to go to. Only thing is we've got to correct for that at the top of the funnel.
Moving from TV to digital, which was supposed to have grown exponentially, has also kind of dimmed in its growth. I think it grew by 14% this year.
Correct.
And last year it grew by about 17%. So, right? So, and what is your expectation for next year?
Again, 17.
You're expecting 17. Why has there been a kind of a dip? Because I believe in terms of contribution to the total ADEX, we're at the lowest. Digital contribution to total ADEX, if you look at different countries, we are currently the lowest.
Yes, we are the lowest, yes.
Right, at about...
At about 44%.
44%.
42,
And we see it
44.
going up to maybe 46.
Next year. So what is the reason for that slowdown? Is it because of the overall slowdown generally, or is there, a more important reason for the medium per se? So
look, if I have to break up the 107,000 crores, you got roughly 66,000 crores going into traditional, which is all about the branding as we know it. There's maybe another 20-odd thousand crores going into the branding part of digital. And then there is another, give or take another 30,000 crores, which is going into the performance part of digital. I think the branding part on the back of video primarily, and that also on the back of CTV is going to grow. The one thing, if the industry moves to a unified currency if and when it happens, I think that can be a huge catalyst for everything to grow. Digital will grow, but I think everything will grow, because when you'll be able to see, people want the comfort of a currency. Right now, all of us in our agencies, we have our way of doing cross media, and we are giving integrated reach between TV and digital, but we do it one way, another agency does it another way. If you had a unified currency, that would be so much better. But that catalyst, let's see when it happens. I see a fair amount of growth on digital branding, primarily on the back of CTV. CTV is right now 30 million. I see that, if anything, going up to maybe 40 million homes out of the 210. So and again, if you break up the market, so you'll have the top, say, 20 million, like top 30 million of the 210 million homes, they will be watching a little bit more. It's not that they've completely cut the cord, but they will be seeing a whole lot more on CTV. And they're also the more consuming classes. So I would, if they are 30 on 210, whatever, a seventh, 15% of the entire population, they'll probably attract 25% of the budgets because the spending is that much higher. But the big belly, that is where TV continues to grow, print continues to grow, even digital continues to grow. But like, for example, if you look at the Hindi states, you have TV penetration is not so high, the UPs and the Bihars and the Chhattisgarhs. So you need reach through TV as well as you need reach through handheld. And put together, then that's how you get your media plan. So everything is going to go. Everything is going to work.
Everything is going to grow, but the growth rate might decline.
No, I think we're actually seeing a slightly higher growth in 2025 versus 24. So against the 9% that we are closing here, we're expecting 11% in 25.
But why is that? Basis what?
Basis, we think that we feel that more money is coming to the hands of consumers thanks to the budget. There are about 45 million taxpayers who are going to have anything between 80,000 to 1 lakh crore more in their pockets because of the tax break they've got. This somewhere is going to probably find its way into the consumption, which we'll see will hopefully start showing up on the ADEX data. So that is one. In general, I think we are hearing that, look, everybody talks about even in 2024, macroeconomic indicators are all good. Problem must be in the micro. That was what I think Mr. Kotak said in one. He's fantastic. But I think it's getting into the micros when you especially break out India into all its constituent parts. That's when you have to see. You have to see because which part of services is actually driving the economy. Is that the part that also contributes to advertising? So if it does, great. If it's not, like manufacturing, everybody's saying, right? But if with all the kind of initiatives that are taking, manufacturing does get a fillip, I think that'll be good. Jobs today, I think we are at about unemployment of about 5-6%. If that gets a little trimmed with some of the ventures that are happening in, that'll come in. Will it be such a quick response? I don't know. But somewhere along the line, at least this tax thing should be a quick response because that money is going to be in the hands of people.
This connected TV is really amazing because everybody suddenly, it's like the new shiny object in the room. Everybody is so optimistic about connected TV. So like you said, about 30 to 40 million homes which are connected TV now. Has anybody done the math on out of that 40 million or 4 crore homes that are connected, how many are actually paying versus non-paying? Because I can get a lot of apps for free where I can watch free content. So how many of them are actually subscriber-based homes?
Look, from an advertising standpoint, we are more concerned about the ad platforms, AVODs, not so much the SVODs. Because
but isn't that where the purchase power is?
Look, somewhere, even the places where you have a freemium kind of thing. So you have free as well as pay. I'm right now talking from an ADEX standpoint. So from an ADEX standpoint, I think YouTube always is the big one. But I think the OTTs have also now got critical mass with this entire Jio Cinema and Hotstar getting together. I think we have a very credible base of up to maybe 150 to 200 million on a monthly basis, on a regular basis coming in onto this one platform, as against maybe the 500 million plus that YouTube has. But it may be smaller than YouTube, but it's still a sizable number.
Sure.
During the IPL months, that number is going to get closer to what a YouTube has, with arguably more engaging content than maybe UGC kind of content that YouTube may have. So I think OTTs also on CTV will sort of make a very determined push. And between YouTube doing it, OTT doing it, the consuming class being behind CTV, I think there will be some traction there.
So you definitely see that in terms of potential, in terms of growth, the rising star will be CTV.
Yes.
Amongst everything else.
I think one is growth in ADEX on CTV and growth in numbers of CTV. I think they're two different aspects. I think Vikram was also probably referring to growth in ADEX, which will move ahead at a much faster rate than growth in numbers. I think, I don't know.
That was the first part of your question. And then I think you asked about the CTV piece.
There will be growth in numbers.
Growth in number of homes, of CTV homes. will be slower than growth in ADEX. Because I think more and more brands are coming in the market which are little more premium, more upmarket, catering to the little more affluent, and all these kind of brands, they don't want the masses, they want the upper echelons of society, and for them they find this is bang on. So why
That
should
is why I asked the question that in your 4 crore homes, which I understand is growing, in your 4 crore homes, how many are actually paying for services? Otherwise, if I'm consuming it because it's free, I'm just a freeloader, right? I mean, I'm just getting it free. I'm not paying for it. But what percentage of the viewing population is actually paying for platforms where I have multiple, let's say, subscriptions and I'm paying for it? That is where you want to reach, right? If you're looking at a more upmarket kind of audience. You don't agree?
No, I don't disagree that that's an important thing from a subscription standpoint. All I'm saying is from an advertising, because since you're focusing on ADEX, it's not that only the discerning or the rich people will only go to will only watch content which they've subscribed to or paid for. There's a bunch. If you have a CTV at home, take IPL.
Yeah.
From what I understand, JioStar is going to allow 4 hours per day of free viewing. And after that, they might charge the 149 or whatever they were talking about for the for any kind of content out there. But for 4 hours, if people have an access at that point in time in a day to watch on CTV or on the handhelds more IPL, if for an advertiser, that's very, very rich. So to be able to advertise out there. So similarly, if there could be some high-end content, which you also see on a normal Star Plus or a Sony or a Z, which could be coming on the OTT platform on which you're watching there. So the same consumer that you were reaching through advertising on TV, you'll watch them on CTV. So the fact that it's not paid doesn't mean it's inferior. So I don't think we should equate a subscribing and therefore affording class with people that they'll only watch their content on pay. They also watch free content.
I just wanted to check with you on, at the moment, how many linear TV players who have, let's say, YouTube channels, what is the kind of trend you see? Is their content being kind of pasted on YouTube for free at the moment?
My understanding is from the big four, Sony is the one which still is there on YouTube. The rest of them, I think, have pulled out quite a lot. In fact, the trend is, as and when you keep on getting your own platforms, you take out from a YouTube and put it onto your own platform. Sony, I think, has still had it on YouTube because they were getting a fairly sizable sort of revenue through YouTube on that. I don't know how they're going to go moving forward. But the trend is, if content is so important, why would I give it to a competing platform?
Exactly.
So I think that's what other people are also saying.
So you are seeing that move where content generators are moving out of YouTube.
Yeah, because there is, yes, that's what I'm saying. I also feel that up till now, on the digital side of things, the entire way in which advertising story has been sent is, you tell us who your consumer is, your target audience is, wherever they are, we'll place the ad there. So it becomes agnostic to content, right? Whereas on TV, our entire way in which we've had to sell to clients is that when you want your spot, do you want it to be on a news channel or a general entertainment channel or a music channel? Now, if I made a plan which was on TV, which was 100% on music channels, I'd be laughed out of the room. But the reality today is that the top 5 out of the 6 channels on YouTube are music channels. Now, today, as far as YouTube was concerned, or for that matter, digital advertising is concerned, an ad rating and a content rating are 2 completely separate things. If all you're concerned is that we're reaching you. So whatever you might be watching. So at that point in time, content becomes irrelevant. Somewhere I think people are going to say, no, content is not irrelevant. If I'm watching my ad is coming in the middle of a UGC versus a GEC versus a movie versus a music show, it is going to make a difference. And you have inclusions and exclusions possible. I think as evolution goes on, people will ask for that.
No, I asked this question because I don't know about, that's why I asked about how linear TV channels are behaving. Because if you look at how news channels are behaving, right, all our content and all networks are immediately posting their shows on YouTube. And this has been a common practice, to ensure, okay, if people
Across the
are
industry.
spending more time on digital and they want to do it at their own time, then we'll just ensure that all our stuff just is put on and dumped on YouTube and then disseminated out across platforms, whether it be Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever you have. So I'm just saying, I'm not sure if that is a smart strategy, because we're basically just giving them content for free.
I would tend to agree with you, because a long time back, 13 years back, at that point in time, a very, very senior global CEO was asked the question, how do you define programmatic? And programmatic was just starting, 2012. And she said, that it is the opposite of premium. And I thought there was a lot of insight there. The reality is that if premium content you should ideally keep for yourself, and whatever is your scatter or your commoditized comment, you put it onto the programmatic SSPs and allow them to sell it for you. But why are you selling your premium content? So why the crown jewels you're giving to somebody else to sell through an SSP? Why would you do that? But then the tech has worked out so well and everything has worked out so well. So all the numbers are coming from there. So I think it's fine. I find it quite unfathomable as to why a premium content you would put onto a different platform.
Just to understand what's going to happen next year by your own estimates, you have suggested that the ADEX will grow at about 11%, right? You are suggesting TV will grow at
6%.
At 6%. Okay. And print?
Print is 7%, yes.
Yeah. TV 6, print is 7, radio 9, cinema 9, outdoor 12, and digital 17. Overall, traditional 7 versus 6 of last year, and overall 11 versus 9 of last year.
We haven't discussed OOH, which you've called a real surprise factor, because you've seen its growth really, blossom in the last year because of airports and, just urbanization of smaller towns. And when are we going to see digital billboards?
We are also seeing more and more brands are taking to OH.
Because they're spending so much time in traffic.
For whatever reason, I think advertisers are seeing the impact that these big billboards and things have on people, especially in metropolitan cities and stuff like that.
In the entire underlying narrative to all of this is that over time, impact and attention is going to get a premium. So whether it is a newspaper ad, whether it's a jacket or even a front page, half page or whatever it might be, it has more impact than a bunch of the digital or long tail kind of inventory that comes out. Similarly with outdoor. Outdoor, every time you come out with a nice big sort of high decibel outdoor campaign, it gets noticed. And multimedia also, when you're using more than 2 or 3 mediums, a launch suddenly gets a multiplier effect and all these things come in.
But the outdoor, which is such great potential, because you really have nothing to do in cities where you're constantly stuck on the road. So it's a great time to actually see something and absorb, because you have so much free time. Why is it that the evolution of outdoor compared to other countries has still been so slow? We still have the same type of billboards.
No, let me correct you there. Outdoor, radio and cinema, almost everywhere across the world, the percentage contribution is more or less the same.
Okay, fair enough. I'm just talking about its innovation. The outdoor innovation in this country has been static, or maybe slight change, as opposed to, let's say you travel abroad, it's more glitzy, it's more sophisticated. Why aren't we seeing that kind of innovation in the outdoor space?
The way I don't think it's the observation, and there was a global outdoor conference of 6 months back where the observation here was, in fact, their cry to us was that less is more. Out here, there seems to be too much clutter and too much inventory. Whereas if you go to some of the most, if you go to, for example, to Bangkok, you'll see fewer hoardings, but spectaculars. And each one of them really, really packs a punch. I think out here, that's the way this market has grown. It's very cluttered. But I won't say short of innovation. Because I think DOH has come up in a very good way. I mean, if you want to see technology with the anamorphics and so on and so forth, they've all come in quite a big way. I think the creating hoardings is something that Indians have been doing a lot of. So I remember when we did it some time back, outdoor just on the back of a drone. So we'd revealed the product launch in the outdoors with drones. So these are all, I mean, that's innovation, right? If you attend any of the outdoor creator awards, actually we're pretty blown with the kind of innovation which is actually happening.
But am I seeing it in my everyday life as a consumer?
Then it depends on...
Probably not seeing enough of it,
Yeah.
but you're seeing a fair amount. There are few and far in between.
I think outdoor is alive and kicking.
Yeah?
I think it's doing very well. In fact, it's outpacing the growth of all the other mediums, traditional mediums. This is one which used to have a 6% share for the longest time. Then this was before digital. When digital came, of course, the market also expanded and the shares came down and COVID happened. And of course, outdoor really crashed. And then since then, we've gone way more than the pre-COVID period. But now it's steady at about 4%, 4.5%. So which is a decent place to be.
What about the cinema story? It's a very sad story because cinema, I mean, the Hindi film industry itself is kind of, barely surviving.
So I think you said it. The cinema is no longer Bollywood. It is the South Indian films. At least the cinema viewing and the advertising is being fueled south of the Vindhyas.
And so whatever numbers have been projected, and of course 2024 numbers are all because of contribution from the south, you're saying?
Yes.
Lion's share of the growth is coming from there. And of course, the size of the entire Hindi-speaking markets is very large. But
any insights on what's happened here? Why have people stopped going to the cinemas?
So cinema also, if you look at it in real terms, the size of the pie has actually come down over the years. It came down dramatically, obviously during COVID, because it got completely shut. And after that, it hasn't really taken off.
At the peak, my understanding was there were a total of 1,200 million tickets sold annually. It had gone down to some pretty low number, 600,000-700,000 million at the COVID time, and probably even lower. Post that, we had reached a stage where it was looking like maybe 2 years, 3 years back at about 800, 900, and we were thinking that it might even cross the billion and come close to the 1.2, 1,200 million, whatever number. Then I think somewhere along the line, the Hindi movies, they have stopped sort of...
enticing the viewer.
Yeah, so I don't know whether it's because of what you're getting online and all the other offerings are that. I think that's where maybe OTT has had a role to play, where people are watching great shows and maybe same stars are also on the OTT.
Yeah.
So I think probably the Hindi film industry needs to reinvent itself, and I think there's
I think a new
soul
crop
search
of
there.
Hindi stars are also a long time coming.
That's true.
Because in cinema now, unlike earlier, you just ran a cinema plan. They say, okay, take a 6-week plan. The film that ran in it didn't matter.
I see.
Now it's all specific to the film that is being shown. So it's a big difference.
Okay.
In the olden days, irrespective of whatever film was running, if you wanted a plan, it ran there, whatever the film was there.
But there is a hack to that. So if you go and tell your advertisers that, yeah, of course, if you have a big blockbuster film, that's when people come in. But if you want everyday low pricing and you want to have a plan which is always on, we can be pretty sure of 25% of the hall being full. So you can do your metrics on that basis. Because one thing out here is that the exhibitors in India are very, they are the best optimizers, right? So, and they have to make sure people walking through their halls. So they will change which movie they're showing, which show, whatever, and just make sure that they have that 25% average hit rate. So both models work. One, you can say blockbuster, chase it, and you'll get these kind of fills. On an everyday basis, you can get a 25% fill, but then pricing is accordingly lower.
Last question before I let you go. Both of you, If I had to ask you what you think is an important message to send out to the community at large, given the current climate we're in, given the outlook for 2025, what would it be?
Well, I think the first and fundamental message for all marketers and advertisers should be don't give up on branding, because branding is the lifeline of your business. So you can't give up on that for some short-term gains here and there. I'm not running down performance. Of course you do performance, but as your brand gains in stature, as your brand establishes itself and as it becomes popular, you have to give it adequate doses of branding, whether it be digital or linear television, but you have to use branding. That's, I think, one core message we should not forget.
My message would be you need to dissect or segment India into the parts that are going to work hardest for you. This will come in the form of which markets to go to, and within that, which consumer cohort to go to. And you got enough data and tech to help you do that. So pick your battles.
Fair enough. Well, on that note, thank you so much for yet again an insightful report, giving us really a guiding light as to where we stand and where we need to go. And thank you so much for your time.